Hey there! Here is lesson 14 for Module 2, and what we're working on today is converting one form of measurement to another form of measurement. And it says right here, solve. The first one's done for us, so we're going to go ahead and look over it with you. Converting days to weeks. And so it gives us the number of days to start with, and it's 42 days. And what they've done here is they've separated this number, which is an adjective, from the noun itself. So if you have 42 days, it's how many? What's the quantity of this object right here? And then the end goal is to convert the noun from days to weeks. And so we kind of keep the numbers separated from each other to start with. And we take that 42 and then we take apart the day, put the day over here, and say, okay, we want to go from one day to how much of a week is that? And we know that there happens to be 7 days in a week, and one day is 1 out of 7. And so it's 1/7 of a week. And one day, so that which is in parentheses, it hasn't changed. It's the exact same amount. It's just a different way of saying it. That's all. And then we go through and we keep this multiplication. So if we're going to say 42, the multiplication, and you're going to use it in the future, especially when you get into multiplying with decimals, multiplying with fractions, kind of means of. So 42 of the days, 42 of one day, 42 of a day, 42 of a week. And so then we say 42 divided by 7 tells us how many weeks we're dealing with here. And we know that 7 times 6 would get us 42. So this is another way of writing a division problem too. So if you have, in this case, what we're looking at is 42 over 1 times, and then here's that other fraction, 1 over 7. And so what they're looking at here is this relationship, because you can go through and go, oh, 7 goes into itself once, and 7 goes into 42 6 times, and then when you multiply you get 6 times 1 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1, and so if it takes 1 to have a whole, you have 6. That's how they get this right here, 6 weeks. So let's take a look at this one over here. It says 36 quarts, and so we want to take that number, 36, that adjective, and take it away from the noun, quart. And so if you were to look this up in your agenda, your planner, you would see the relationship between these measurements, that 1 quart is the same as 1/4 of a gallon, that it takes 4 quarts to make a gallon. Therefore, if you only have 1 quart, you've got 1 out of 4 if you've got the gallon thing. So this number just continues on down, the 36 right here. All we've done is change the noun. And so then if we're going to figure out how many gallons is that, and we look over here that this has got that fraction, that it's 36 out of how many does it take? It takes 4 of them. So 36/4 of a gallon. And then we divide, and I remember that 4 times 10 would be 40, and if I take one of them away, then I don't have 10 of them anymore. I have 9 of them. 4 times 9 is 36. Now let's get to the metric thing. Instead of doing the standard, this one's taking a look at the metric. And so we're going to do that thing where we take apart the adjective of 760, and we're going to be taking it away from the noun, centimeters. 760 times 1 centimeters is the same as this, therefore it's equal. And then when we look at this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep that adjective of 760, and we're going to turn this into from centimeters into meters. And so if we have 1 centimeter, and how many centimeters does it take to make a meter? It takes 100, and you can look in your reference as needed when you start doing these on your own, in your agenda, your planner that's got that chart in it. So 1/100th of a meter is the same as a centimeter. And so then we're going to have the multiplication aspect of it, and it doesn't give us the room for it. So let's just do it over here. I know 760, I'm going to turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1. And we're multiplying, we're just bringing this down over here, times 1 over 100. And I know 760 times 1 is 760, so do you. Same with 1 over 100. And I know that 100 goes into 700 7 times, and then we have 60 100ths left over. And remember, with math ball kinds of stuff, we could go through and we could cancel out those zeros, which would give us 7 6/10. And if you don't have experience with it from 4th grade, or you're not sure you remember very well, if we can divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same thing, and in this case they're both even numbers, so I can divide both of these by 2, and that is called simplifying them. I know 2 goes into 6 3 times, and I know that 2 goes into 10 5 times, so it ends up being, as an answer, 7 3/5 of a meter. It's the end answer. Now I'm going to do one more with you that has none of that. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of bring this down a little so I can just keep an eye so I don't forget the process. I know the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this adjective of 205 and I'm going to separate it from that noun times 1 milliliter. So I'm going to convert from milliliters to liters. So the next one down here I'm going to want is going to be liters. And I'm going to keep this number. It's going to stay the same for a little while. 205. And then I think about, okay, milliliters. And I can think about it kind of in relation to centimeters, millimeters, and meters. Centimeters, it was 100 of them to make the whole unit. And I know with millimeters, it would have been 1,000. So it's probably going to be the same thing with milliliters. So to keep that, 1 milliliter is the same as 1/1000th of a liter. And so then the next thing that happens is we have the multiplication aspect of it, where 205 times 1 is still 205, and it's over 1,000, and that's liters. And now I think about, well, what can I divide both of those by? Well, I know that anything that's a multiple of 5 ends in a 5 or in a 0. Both of these, you've got your 5 and your 0. So we can just go through and simplify it that way. I know, I'm looking at this 20 here, so if I'm going to go 5 into 205, I know I'm going to start by going, 5 doesn't go into 2, 5 goes into 20 4 times, which comes out just right. And then I bring down that 5. 5 goes in there once. So 5 goes into 205 41 times. 5, I can look at this and go 5 goes into 10 twice, goes into 0 times, goes into that last 0 times. 41 and 200, this is an odd number. This is an even number. I can't divide them by 2. I don't know of anything that goes into 41. I think 41's prime, which means we can't divide it. So the answer then is 41 200ths of a liter. Now we're at about that 10-minute mark. Here's the one I'm going to ask you to do, following that same pattern. This one right here, I circled it before and I'm circling it again. Kind of looks like a target, doesn't it? Let's go ahead and just make it full on like that. So the target of the day is exit ticket problem number 1. This time around, what you're looking at is you're going from days to weeks. And so you remember, it's like if you have your number, your adjective here, and then times. You want to keep that number, so you're going to multiply times 1. Remember that? That way you keep it. And then for the next one down, you want to think about, okay, 1 day is how much of a week? If you need to rewind in this little video, it was that first problem we took a look at where they were converting from days to weeks too. So feel free, look back at that problem if you need to. All you got to do is just scroll that little dot over. Anyway, so this is the one I'm going to ask you to bring in to class tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and move this up. If you want to try this one, it's of course an option. It now shows. All right, see you tomorrow.